everybody. Lance Russell and Dave Brown right along ringside. By golly, we're about ready to go with more big action.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Georgia Championship Wrestling. I'm Gordon Slowly, your host, and we have quite an hour in store for us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Championship Wrestling at ringside. This is Vince McMahon, along with wrestling's only living legend, Bruno Sammartino.
Welcome to this week's edition of Mid-South Wrestling Television. I'm your host, Boyd Pierce, another outstanding card.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Regional Rasslin podcast, where we talk the territories. I am Ray Russell, and this week we jump back in to the projects here. Spent a little time away talking books over the last couple weeks. Wilbur Snyder, of course, Gorilla Monsoon, and now we're jumping back into the thick of things with Memphis Showboats 1985. And in order to get going once again, let's bring back onto the program the one and only Mr. Gene Jackson.
Hey, it's been a little while, but we are back here in 1985. And
unfortunately,
I was going to say, maybe we should have changed the numbers on the DeLorean and showed up in a different month or something.
That might be a good call.
Ran into some hard times, if you will.
Yeah, they're hard times right now, Gene baby. You know what I'm talking about with we're talking about life after the Macho Man. I didn't know it was going to be such a struggle. You figured they would have had some sort of a backup with Randy Savage. I guess they do have a backup. We'll see if it works out for them. As we get rolling this week, guys. We are now smack dab in the middle of June of 1985, about at the halfway mark of the year, and things are changing. Randy Savage gone, and we're going to get into that in just a moment. Because, as we always do, we're going to recap last week in the Memphis territory. Gone from the territory after last week. It was a bloodletting this past week. In fact, hot off the heels of the departure of one Macho Man Randy Savage just 2 weeks ago, we now also say goodbye to Kareem Muhammad. The Mexican Angel. He didn't have a long stay here. And even Bruiser Brody has moved on from the territory.
Well, you don't expect Bruiser Brody to hang around anywhere very long, so, you never get attached to him.
Mm-hmm.
Mexican Angel, we could have done without him to start with, but, man, I'd be lying if I said it does hurt my feelings that we lost Kareem Muhammad. It feels like now more than ever we needed the humor of Ray Candy to get us through this rough patch without the Macho Man, but he's gone, and well, I don't want to spoil anything by even commenting on who we've got left to fall back on heel-wise, but, oh, brother.
Oh, a moment of silence for the loss of Ray Candy here in the Memphis territory, because he will sorely be missed, I assure you guys. And as you just said, Gene, with all the disappearing talent from Memphis, the Fabulous Ones have seemingly been lumped into a feud with the Buddy Wayne-led team of Billy Travis and Ron Sexton.
Stan and Steve is just like, what the hell is happening right now? Like, the PYTs, great tag team. Sure, they had Tux out there with them, but they can go. They had heat, and that was a good little feud. But to fall out of that into a feud with the B-team version, I know Billy Travis was kind of a stand-in briefly for the PYTs, but before he really got that rub, we're throwing Ron Sexton, whose name we didn't even know a month ago, and poor Buddy Wayne. I mean, if it wasn't for the whole joke of the Paul Bearer lookalike thing, we just really wouldn't have anything to work with Buddy Wayne.
No, definitely. I can hear Stan Lane now. We came back for this? Unbelievable. This is it's crazy. You have the Fabulous Ones on one side, but they need somebody to work with. And maybe we found somebody. We'll get to that in just a little bit, because we saw Tux Newman last week also on TV, laid up in a bed. Location not disclosed. His neck in traction. Tux whipping out a giant Acme cartoon-like hit list of talent he promises to get even with. And at the top of that list was the man who put him in that bed, the fabulous Jackie Fargo. But I'm afraid it ends there, people. It appears the Tux Man cometh and the Tux Man goeth, as this likely marks the end of Tux Newman in the Memphis territory. He's gone as well.
Yeah, it's just a big exodus to happen all at once, regardless of how you feel about some of those names. Just to have them all gone in one fell swoop is rough. Yeah, it's just kind of weird why they even ran that video with Tux rattling off that list. Because from what I understand, he either did it right before he left or right after he got back to California. I mean, were they under the impression he was coming back, or was that just kind of his farewell? Or is this, I don't know, it's kind of odd that they ran that when he wasn't going to get revenge on any of those people.
Yeah, it was really, I guess, biding some time, hoping he'd return. We're going to see them comment on Tux here this week's TV briefly, and I think it's pretty much a done deal that he will not be returning to the company at this point anyway. But yeah, it was really odd that they would air that when it felt like he was all but gone from the company. We'll see what happens here in the manager department. We do have Buddy Wayne to fall back on anyway. PYT's turning down no challengers, scoring a win last Monday night over Gene Jackson's new favorite team of Tajoski. That would be Tojo, Yamamoto, and Jerry Oski.
A dream team if there ever was one. I mean, it's that tag team you never knew you needed until they pop up on your screen and you're like, holy shit, where have these guys been our whole lives?
That is what Jerry Oski's been missing the past several months. Or he just needs a little Tojo in his life. Speaking of new tag teams, a new incarnation of the Sheepherders are back in the Memphis territory, talking about Jonathan Boyd and returning from his near fatal car accident, from what I understand, brings with him a young quote unquote nephew, this time in Rip Morgan.
So I thought that was an interesting addition. People, feel a certain way, the other about Jonathan Boyd and some of the things we've learned about him as a human being over the years, but
sure.
He's fairly entertaining on the mic, and he's not as bad as he would be in another year or two as far as in-ring work. But a huge upside to Rip Morgan here. So I have a lot more faith that the Sheepherders are going to be entertaining than I do with Billy and Rex. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Absolutely. I'm totally in agreement with you there. Now, Rip Morgan, very green still to the business, but he's a big boy and he's believable. They're not Luke and Butch. Keep that in mind, guys. They're not those Sheepherders. Jonathan Boyd, one of the originals. Of course, he teamed with Luke a lot when Butch was gone back to Australia, New Zealand, or whatnot a few years prior to this. But now it is, we got two Sheepherders on the loose. Luke and Butch are working wherever the hell they are, Florida, or wherever the hell they were in 85. And over here, we have Boyd and Rip Morgan. We're going to see how they play out as a team here on TV this week. Also, it appeared last week that the Indian, the Native American Jay Youngblood, would get his revenge. At least common sense booking would have told you that he was going to get his revenge. Youngblood in a rematch with perennial enhancement talent Jerry Bryant on TV last week. And Jay still somehow managed to get himself disqualified in his quote-unquote revenge match.
With all the promise that anybody may have, felt that Jay Youngblood had, based on past success in other territories, boy, he has fizzled out fast here in Memphis. And you just, for one reason or another, he can't be around a whole lot longer because, holy shit, he hasn't come out on the good end of anything so far.
I don't know that he's won a singles match yet.
No, he got his headdress torn up and he got humiliated there. And like you said, he can't even pull a win out against, enhancement talent. Jerry Bryant's good. He's been plugged into some semi-decent spots at different times, but come on. I mean, if you can't close that deal, you get a freaking DQ. You can pretty much see the writing on the wall if you're Jay Youngblood, unless you're, a little too effed up to notice.
So he's losing to Jerry Bryant on TV, but it continues on Monday night at the Coliseum this past Monday. It was Jay's time for revenge against the comic genius that was Ray Candy here, talking about Kareem Muhammad to you listeners out there, only to see Kareem go over on Youngblood again. So he ripped up his feathers, then he beat him Monday night, then they had a return match the following Monday, which was 5 days prior to this, and again, Kareem Muhammad goes over, but that's still not the worst part, guys. Muhammad finishes up after this event, leaves town after scoring said win over Jay Youngblood. Total burial.
Yeah, big old middle finger from Kareem to Jay Youngblood as he slams the door behind him of the Memphis territory. Whew.
And I think I said last time out, I believe we're going to see Muhammad pop up for Bill Watts shortly after this. And he wasn't doing comedy there, unfortunately. But no. It's kind of crazy. It's the writing's on the wall for Jay Youngblood, and I don't even know if he sees it yet. We're going to see a little bit more Jay here in just a moment, but let's save the best for last year. Talking about last week in Memphis, referee Tom Branch has made himself an enemy of the fans of Memphis, but more importantly, against the King Jerry Lawler. Branch allowing Bruiser Brody to use multiple foreign objects in a match with the King on Monday night. Chairs, a metal stanchion, choking Jerry with a wire right in front of the referee. But when the King fought back, blocked the chair shot, and used the chair himself, Lawler immediately disqualified. Now, of course, this upset the fans and the King, who took a wild swing with said chair at Tom Branch. Too bad he missed. And they continue the similar storylines between Lawler and Branch throughout the week in other cities in tag team matches. So they're obviously building to something here.
Yeah, I mean, it's the almost the Danny Davis angle a couple of years early here in Memphis, and that's fine. But again, it's like, all right, well, what's the big payoff here? He's going to pile drive him at some point or something. There's nothing really that anybody can sink their teeth into that's going to be long term or anything great. It's just like, all right, well, at some point, this referee will screw him over a few times, and eventually, Lawler will have a match with him, and maybe he'll pile drive him 2 or 3 times like Andy Kaufman or something. But, it's...
Well, at least Andy Kaufman was entertaining, right? When he walked in, we knew that Andy couldn't fight a lick, although his matches with the ladies were tremendous. But you knew Lawler was going to eventually get his hands on him, the back suplex, the pile driver, etc. It was great TV. And it sold out the arena, I have to imagine. I don't know what they drew, but I have to imagine they did very well that night when Andy was working Lawler that first time around. But Tom Branch, who is a former wrestler and sometimes in the future a wrestler, the son of the booker right now, Tom Renesto Sr. This is Tom Renesto Jr. for those of you who haven't been following along. And now he's being plugged into a stopgap storyline here with the King. Like you said, you can't go on for too long because there's not much of competition involved there. When the King gets in the ring, it's going to be a pile driver, maybe a fireball if we're really lucky. But that's pretty much where we're at right now with Tom Branch. But we're going to see more of Tom this week because, well, his dad's still booking. And that's going to take us now into Saturday morning, guys, June the 15th, 1985. More CWA Championship Wrestling. All right, away we go. WMC TV5 Studios, Memphis, Tennessee. It's Championship Wrestling on the screen, and it's Lance and Davey right along ringside. And right, what do? Another intro music video to kick things off. This week set to Glory Days. Too lazy for the multiple songs this week per wrestler, so I'm okay with that. We realize that Jay Youngblood will be here, as well as the Sheepherders, the team of Travis and Sexton, the Fabulous Ones, supposedly, Jerry Lawler and Koko Ware on this music video here to kick things off.
I'm not loving these music videos, especially right now when things are in the shape they're in. Like, well, don't go ahead and tell me right out of the gate that this is going to suck. Because, I start seeing Jay Youngblood and the Sheepherders, Travis and Sexton. I'm like, they did hook me telling me that I'm going to get a Koko versus Lawler match for the title on TV. That sounds like it has a lot of promise.
Sounds like it.
So there's that. But, yeah, exactly. We'll get there. But, otherwise, I'm just like, man, at least let me hold out hope, sit here on my couch, my fingers crossed, and like, maybe there's somebody dropping in we're not expecting. But once you see the music videos, it's like, all right, that's what's happening this week. Let's grit our teeth and see if we can get through it.
Well, that's what they've been doing. They've been spoiling things for a week with these music videos, even if they kind of tease things with like Bruiser Brody, who was never in studio. But we would get highlights from the arena or something, the Coliseum with Brody. But, they would show Jackie Fargo, Austin Idol before they appeared on the TV. We're like, what's that about? This week, they're pretty much telling you, yeah, there's Travis and Sexton, there's Jay Youngblood, feel free to change the channel. And so, but like you said, they do announce at the top of the program, Lawler defending the Southern title against Koko Ware. So that's pretty fun for TV, no doubt about it. So I'm going to stay tuned and see how that plays out as we move into the ring. Tag team action, Jay Youngblood teaming with Jerry Oski, taking on the team of Jerry Bryant and Big Lou Winston. Wait a minute. Youngblood and Oski? What happened to Joski? Now what is it? Is it Young Blowski? I don't know.
Well, I don't know that we could sell that shirt, but
I could sell that shirt.
Yeah, true. We do have the free Memphis Vice here.
We
so
do.
That's fun. And it's sad to say that I was more excited about the pairing of Jerry Oski than Tojo Yamamoto that I am the pairing of Oski and Jay Youngblood. So that pretty much tells you where I'm at on Jay Youngblood at this point in 1985.
Well, I can't say that I blame you. Of course, Tojo and Jay Youngblood, both same repertoire, lots of chopping in their arsenal, and we'll see how they pair here. This Young Blowski team is they take on the future duo, the Memphis Vice here, and referee going to be Tom Branch. And we get a third week of the epic Youngblood Jerry Bryant storyline. I guess you could see they're across the ring from each other. And if you missed it last week, Jay tried to murder Jerry, wouldn't release the Cobra Clutch. Remember, they were actually pulling Jay upside down by his legs, and it was absolutely ridiculous looking, guys. So we get things going here. Jerry Oski easily handling Bryant early on. Then it's time for Youngblood versus Lou Winston in the ring, but Jay wants it Bryant to settle the score, but instead he's going to have to settle for Lou Winston. Eventually, we do get Bryant and Youngblood in the ring. It's about as exciting as you guys might imagine. Oski searching for moves here. Every time he tags in, he delivers a drop kick first thing. And Dave Brown even referring to it as not a great one. A drop kick, but not a... Boy, Dave is on a roll. I think he's sick of watching this shit as much as we are.
I agree, man. It is creeping into Dave's commentary here that he's not thrilled with this. And I'm sure his instincts are telling him the people at home aren't thrilled with this. And, he's kind of letting everybody know, like, yeah, man, we get it. This ain't great, but stick with us, hopefully.
I mean, I followed Dave forever. I've watched pretty much all the Memphis that exists. I feel like I have, and I don't remember Dave ever really shitting on anything. And he's done it like 3 out of the last 4 or 5 weeks. I think he's just at his boiling point, if you will, of just the crap that they're bringing in here and trying to present to the people right now, because there's just so much of it, unfortunately. And then, oh my God, we move into the finish. How embarrassing, I wrote here in my notes. And you even hit me with a message on Facebook the minute you saw it. I'd forgotten about it by that point. But the baby faces looking for a double team move here on Lou Winston, where one wrestler going to press their partner into the air and drop them onto the opponent. We saw the Rockers do that a lot, and I believe Steamboat and Jay Youngblood would do that for some of their finishes in Mid-Atlantic. But Jay Youngblood comes off the rope with his husky, lethargic ass running towards Oski, and he dead weights Jerry Oski, who can't get Jay up. I don't mean all the way, guys. I mean up at all. Not even in a body slam position. So Jay sort of falls to the side of Lou Winston. Then he finally just gets up and drops an elbow, and they score the win. Match goes 5 minutes and 24 seconds. I wrote in my notes here, holy fuck. What was that? Amateur hour from a guy who was on top of the world just a few years earlier in Jim Crockett Promotions.
I mean, I don't care if you are like a regular religious viewer of Botchmania. I don't know if I've seen anything that freaking awkward.
Live. It's live too, right? I mean,
it's live. The announcers don't know what to do with it. And you can see the frustration on Oski, because when he drops, and then Oski's going to pivot to something else, and then basically, like you said, then he just drops an elbow instead, and you can just see the "oh fuck it" look on Oski's face as he just turns around in disgust. It's just like, holy shit! Like, and well, I won't spoil it, but something got screwed up when even the people involved eventually have to acknowledge it. It was that damn obvious. I don't know. I've seen stuff get screwed up, and I know you have too, Ray, where the announcers have to acknowledge it, and
right.
we've been hearing some of that out of Lance and Dave, especially when we've had guys like the Terminators and Constance and Ashley and some of the people we've sat through this season so far. But I don't know that I've ever heard the wrestlers acknowledge it at some point, but we'll get to that soon.
Yeah, we're going to have them come out here and cut a promo all about it here in just a little. It's insane, really. I would just ignore it and pretend it never happened, but these guys are going to remind everyone here in just a little bit of time. But, when we walked into Jay Youngblood coming in, I thought it was Tom Renesto grasping at straws. He needed anybody he could get. We've seen Cyclops come in here. We've seen the Mexican Angel come in here. It only makes sense you would get a guy like Jay Youngblood. But as I continue to watch this, and I realize that Jay is doing the job in every match he has on the house shows, at least in the singles department, I have to start wondering, is Jay doing a favor for Renesto, or is Renesto doing a favor for Jay? Because he is just that bad right now.
Yeah, I feel like that, Jay probably called him up in desperation and was like, look, I need a job, man. And Renesto is probably like, man, I don't really have anything. Oh, come on, I'll do whatever you need me to do. And he probably told Jared or whoever, like, well, let's bring him in. Maybe he's not as bad as when we last saw him in Mid-South or whatever they saw last. And then once he gets here, it's like, oh, holy shit, look at what we've got here. Like, well, let's just job him until his pride makes him leave. And then it turns out he may not have any pride left.
There's no pride left, absolutely. Because his pride was in the feathers and they were destroyed. And now it's like flesh in his junk, as you once aptly put it. So it's he's here for the time being. How much longer, I can't say. We'll find out. I don't think very much longer, but we continue on with the program. Speaking of the booker, Tom Renesto, he's going to be interviewed up next. Renesto bringing out brand new Southern Tag Team title belts, nice and shiny looking, but Tom also bringing out some big news. He talks about the Fabulous Ones recently having to return the tag belts. We talked about that on the last episode of TV. Had to return them back to the PYT on a technicality after Tux Newman's lawyers got involved. Renesto also mentioning here, this is where he says that Tux is no longer with the company. He's gone. So they basically write him off here just passively by a comment made by Tom Renesto, who goes on to say that the AWA Championship Committee, that damn committee, has received hundreds of calls and complaints. I never got that number, but hundreds of calls and complaints regarding the PYT in their recent title defenses. And so as an example, we go back to this past Monday night, VTR, the PYT versus Tajoski, if you will. Koko Ware shown using a chain to beat Oski. And of course, the referee there is Tom Branch, I might want to add. So cheating, once again, the PYT are very good at that, to retain the belts. And Renesto goes on to say all the calls, all the letters have forced the AWA to take action. And they did take action, as Renesto announces here he is stripping the PYT of the Southern Tag Team titles, then announcing that, of course, what do you do in Memphis when you strip some titles? This Monday night at the Mid-South Coliseum, there will be a Southern Tag Team title tournament to crown new champions. Plus, the winners get a $10,000 prize, every team putting in $1,000.
What the fuck are we doing? we strip the Fabs to give them to the PYTs,
right,
to strip the PYTs based on the fact the PYTs used a chain, and we saw it in the replay. Although thousands upon thousands of titles have changed hands in Memphis,
thank you,
with chains involved. Thousands more will continue to change hands for years to come with chains involved. But because all these hundreds of phone calls and letters and outrage poured into the AWA Championship Committee, this is the one that they had to act upon. Fuck.
Yeah, after looking at the brand new belts, I just really thought it was a way to show off the belts. Like, hey, we paid for these shits. Let's make our money back on them and do a big tournament on Monday night. Like, let's get our money worth out of these belts and try to, boost the Coliseum a little bit by promising a big tournament of 10 teams, 20 guys out there involved in said tournament. But you're right, absolutely. When I thought the hypocrisy of this is, wait a minute, because they cheated to retain, they're no longer allowed to be there's more hypocrisy coming as well, because as we're going to find out, the PYT will be involved in the tournament. You would think that if they are stripped of the titles, they shouldn't be allowed to regain them on Monday night. What's to stop them from cheating against next week as the champions?
Yeah, because we've seen this transpire before with the interns, Well, we had a tournament after we stripped the interns, and the interns won the goddamn tournament. And we were right back where we started again. Oh man, there's a lot of absurdity in wrestling, throughout the ages. But boy, the Tom Renesto booking here is just frustrating is the best word I can apply to it.
It's off the rails. Recently in the Los Angeles project I've been doing with Vandal Drummond, we talk about Renesto's booking there and the demise of LA in the territory. But a lot of the guys would sit in the back and talk shit, what awful booking he had. But, he talked about Bobby Lane, one of the workers there at the time, mentioning, yeah, but look what he has to work with. They were on the demise. They didn't really have a lot of great talent there, which is the same case here. But even with poor talent, that shouldn't change your booking style if you are a good booker. And I'm not questioning what Renesto did in Georgia or any of the other territories, and certainly not questioning, his time on top as a heel in the wrestling business. But something changed over time. I don't know if wrestling changed, if the fans changed, or if Renesto changed, some CTE or something here. But it goes beyond the talent, because none of this makes any fucking sense, no matter whose name you plug into it.
Yeah, and if you're the booker, you're booking the talent. So if the talent sucks, well, book better freaking talent, I guess. What is it about you that once you take over somewhere, all the good talent gets the hell out, and then you're down to this talent that you blame you blame all this on? Well, we had some really good people, and then you showed up, and look what we got now. You're the one in charge, so that's on you too, pal.
Yeah, we were talking about that the other day. Randy Savage and Jerry Lawler, of course, but you had Rick Rude and King Kong Bundy and names like that. By the end of 1984, they begin to leave. Now, they leave, fair enough, they leave right before Renesto gets there, so that wasn't necessarily his fault. But these were the talents that Jerry Jarrett was using and getting over, and Rick Rude had never really been pushed until he got to Memphis. And you got to credit Rude to that as well, but Jarrett had the wherewithal to give him the gimmick or what have you, and he gets over, and it's like $1 million for the time he's there. But we're not seeing any stars created. Ron Sexton is not your next big star here in Memphis, that's for sure. So Renesto leaves and enter the PYT. Koko Ware grabbing Renesto, passing by. Careful, Koko, you don't want to get suspended. But the PYT upset about the decision, naturally. They say all the heroes ran to Eddie Marlin because they couldn't beat the PYT for the belt. So Koko blaming Eddie Marlin for stripping them of the title, clearly not listening to anything Renesto just said about the AWA committee.
Yeah, might want to run through the whole scenario there before he comes out there and starts ranting about shit that doesn't even apply to what they're saying there. But, somebody else that Renesto ran out in pretty record time, they had just invested all that time into Eddie Gilbert and his feud with Lawler. Yeah. And Renesto shows up, and Gilbert's gone within just a matter of a week. Well, he fell down the card within a week, 2 weeks.
The push was over.
Within just a few weeks, him and Dutch Mantell loaded up together and headed to Mid-South. So, and those are two top, Memphis names there.
I didn't understand that at all. I know bookers come in and they change, who they're pushing to some degree, but to see a guy on top knowing he's working with Jerry Lawler and you don't really have an idea of what you're doing or who you're bringing in at that point, why do you just go straight to, well, you're a mid-carder. We're going to put, it's like almost like he had a grudge, maybe against Tommy Gilbert or something from the past. I don't know what the deal was. Oh, no, Tommy's still working here off and on, though, on the house shows anyway. So I'm not really sure what the whole deal is there with the whole Eddie Gilbert thing, but that's another good call. He started, rising up to the top, and boom, he didn't want anything with it. Dutch Mantell comes through. They leave together. They're down in the Mid-South now doing some business, but here in Mid-South, we're going to see what happens here because Koko Ware out here talking the trash. And then mid-Koko promo, we cut to the hijacking of TWA Flight 847, Cairo, Egypt to San Diego. That's a hell of a trip. I had to do a little digging. I wasn't familiar with this particular hijacking, but it was apparently a very big deal. 17 days this plane stayed hijacked. That's a long time, but this is near the beginning of the whole hijacking ordeal, so they don't even have a lot of information at this point, but it cuts into the Memphis live feed for about 5 minutes here. Kind of caught me off guard.
Yeah, me too. And I think you'd even mentioned it to me that was one of the reasons it ran long, but I'd forgotten about it because it didn't like it popped in during a commercial or something. You're watching, and all of a sudden there's Connie Chung cutting in with this. And, I've only flown once in my life, but I can't imagine 17 days on a hijacked plane. Good Lord, bless those people's heart. That's awful.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff, and we'll hit on it again here before we close out this episode of TV. But right now we cut back in and we come out of a commercial break, and it's the Sheepherders out here to talk. Jonathan Boyd does the talking while Rip Morgan kind of just stomps around waving that New Zealand flag. And they talk about putting their $1,000 into the pot to be part of the Southern Tag Title Tournament on Monday night. The Herders, he says, are the real deal, not like that propaganda Hollywood movie Rambo. I didn't really see where he was going with that. I thought he was going to go to Crocodile Dundee because, Australia, New Zealand, but he just goes to Rambo. They're the real deal. They're not that fake Rambo guy.
Yeah, and they don't come off to me like we're doing like a money bags gimmick or anything. But at one point, Boyd said, "We could pay the $1,000 for everybody to enter this thing." And I was like, "Why would you do that? That's fucking stupid. Like, why would you even say that?" And of course, he almost always, no matter where he's at, what he's doing, he always name drops Butch and Luke at some point in the promo as well. So
God bless
got to
him.
make sure that's he's one of the original Sheepherders, by God, and he's one of them. So.
That's right. He's with them in spirit.
Yeah. They make sure whatever rub they can give. Let's make sure he mentions them in the promo and gets it here. And Rip Morgan for a long, long time after this, that would kind of be his shtick. He would stand there and stomp around and slap his forearms and look, pretty confused about what he's supposed to be doing and where he's supposed to be looking. And he's just kind of here, but Boyd's got it covered.
Well, I hope he covers this match because if I remember, let me just get into my notes here. Referee going to be Jerry Calhoun for this one. So I guess we're alternating referees. Match number 2, finally. Not done by mistake, I'm sure, Branch in the other match. So now we have Calhoun in the ring to kick things off. It's Rip Morgan and Gino Della Serra. So Sheepherders, sorry if I didn't mention it, their opponents are David Haskins and the debuting Gino Della Serra here from up Canadian, the Northway. And he'd worked some in Puerto Rico as well prior to this, in Montreal up in Canada. And now he's here in Memphis, Tennessee. Very odd stop here for Della Serra. And his early goings with Rip Morgan, it looks pretty rough on both ends, both guys. But Jonathan Boyd comes in, throws some good punches at least, I note. David Haskins going to tag in for his team, but he gets mauled here by the Herders. Boyd working snug, basic, but very snug. Not a bad match. Can't say the same for Rip Morgan, who is not very good here in 1985. At least he has Jonathan Boyd to fall back on. Finish going to see the familiar Bushwhacker-style battering ram get the win for the Herders, 3 minutes and 21 seconds.
Yeah, Rip Morgan at this point, for TV at least, they should just let Boyd rough these guys up, let him come in and hit a big kick or something, and hit that battering ram and get him the hell out of there. And, he needs to learn, he needs to get ring time, do that on the freaking spot shows and the where there's not a camera to be found. But he got exposed pretty freaking quick in this one.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. And he'll get a little better. It really doesn't seem to click with him till 89, I thought. But definitely not here in 1985. And like you said, let him come in, throw a couple forearms, a big boot, and the battering ram take it home. That would have been better use of him. But they're trying to get him on TV, get some use out of him, and hopefully he evolves a little bit here while they're in this run, because I have a feeling they're going to eventually have to work with the Fabs here. As the program goes on, Steve Earhart, who is the general manager of the Memphis Showboats, one of the many teams as part of the USFL from the mid-1980s, hyping tonight's big game, because if the Showboats win against Jacksonville tonight, they will advance to the playoffs. And they do win, ultimately being eliminated in the semifinals to the Oakland Invaders, 29-19. So that just a little bit of information there for you old footballers. But recently, Earhart mentions that they offered to donate $150 a point in a Showboats game for the Jamie Ray Kimbrell Fund. There it is. This guy really worked everybody. I'm going to find out something terrible and I'm going to get canceled for it. But $150 a point, and of course, it was the most points they ever scored, Gene. So they had to donate $5,700 to one Jamie Ray Kimbrell, to which Jerry Lawler comes out, speaks with Earhart. He says he wants to thank him for his help, and that put them over the top. So, it's like an old-timey GoFundMe fund here for this Jamie Ray Kimbrell fellow, and I still can't find anything on the person.
No, I haven't either. It makes you wonder if that ain't like a code name. That's not like,
like
some
pseudonym.
gimmick that Lawler and Jerry Jarrett came up with. It's not even a real person, but that'd be my luck, that I'd make some offer like that and think, well, maybe we'll end up paying, $500 or something, then end up having the highest scoring game ever.
$5,700.
$5,700. Good Lord.
Well, you get what you pay for. They made their way to the playoffs, so good for them. The USFL isn't going to be around but for another season, maybe. So no, I think maybe 85 is the final season. No, well, I don't know. I don't remember right now. I know Jeff Gaylor was there, Lex Luger, Ron Sim. A lot of guys went through there before they made it to the pro wrestling world.
Relive the glory days of Memphis wrestling with the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast. Each week, we go back in time to review USWA Championship Wrestling from the 1990s, episode by episode. Join us for watch-alongs, behind-the-scenes stories, and exclusive interviews with people who were there and lived it. Whether you grew up watching it or you're discovering it for the first time, this podcast is your ringside seat to Memphis wrestling history. It's all a part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Listen now at USWApodcast.com.
Hey guys, Ray Russell back to talk to you about all the new and exciting audio and video podcasts we've been putting together over at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. As a self-funded brand, this entire ship is powered by our patrons. It's your support that keeps all of these wonderful shows going here at WrestleCopia. And with that said, I wanted to mention that we now have 3 major tiers with tons of Patreon-exclusive next-level content for our Patreon supporters. And it all starts with the $5 all-access tier, which gets you early access to many of the weekly podcasts, at least a dozen monthly digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure, the insanely detailed show notes for the Wrestling Memory Grenade Regional Rasslin, and the OG Monday Warfare podcast, plus random bonus video drops, archived old-school audio watch-alongs from the early years of the brand. And if that's not all, the brand new Patreon-exclusive podcast, Ranting Raw, featuring yours truly, Ray Russell, completely uncensored, unfiltered, with honest takes, taking patron questions and addressing various topics from throughout wrestling history. It is a whole lot of fun wrapped under the all-access tier for only $5, but things get even hotter with the VIP Superfan tier. For just a few dollars more, you get everything already mentioned in the all-access tier, plus as part of the VIP tier, a whole new slew of videocast series where it's not just your typical watch-alongs. Sure, we laugh, we have fun, but we're also breaking down the history, the context, and the why behind what you're seeing. And as part of the VIP tier, you have access to Dan Gennety's Pro Resu Academy videocast, the Coliseum videocast with co-host Gene Jackson, and the Monday Warfare videocast, Raw vs. Nitro, breaking down the history of the Monday Night War. Plus, you also get the Memphis 1985 folder of goodies and all show notes for the Pro Academy podcast and Gene's retro review show. Lots to be had there at the VIP tier. But wait, there's more. For those WrestleCopia backers who crave even more from the brand, we bring you yet another level of content fit for a warrior, because it is indeed the ultimate tier, which gives you everything from the all-access pass, everything from the VIP tier, plus you will receive access to the big ones video series featuring a lengthy look and discussion into some of the biggest pay-per-views, super shows, and other events from throughout wrestling history. It's also a great place to keep up with the big events that coincide with the Monday Warfare videocast and so many other big events from years gone by. You'll also have access to the newest big hit to the Copia brand. I'm talking about Regional Rasslin Unreal, the video series. Get ready for the next level in Regional Rasslin as we dissect territory history in video form. Watch along with us. But still, even more for your money, guys. You'll also receive access to the Treasure Chest, which offers patrons the unique opportunity to download and watch select rarities from wrestling history. And for those of you who are wondering what we offer, are contemplating joining a paid Patreon membership, or simply a curious lurker, a reminder, there's a free tier at our Patreon that you can join as well. Remember, guys, no subscription, cancel any time, but I think you'll like the content that we're offering there for any budget you may have. And you can sign up right now, patreon.com/WrestleCopia, or look for the QR code where available. We appreciate your support in helping us pay the bills to keep the WrestleCopia podcast network running and enabling us to continue to bring you all the quality programming that we offer.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia, the podcast that dives into wrestling history. Hey, wrestling fans, I'm Dave Dynasty, and if you enjoy podcasts that are knowledgeable and history-driven, then Wrestling Nostalgia is for you. With great guests and fun interviews, there are over 200 episodes in our archives. We chat with several first-time guests and often cover topics not discussed on other podcasts. Look up Wrestling Nostalgia on your favorite podcast platform and visit all of our links at linktree/WrestlePod. That is linktr.ee/RASSLEPOD. And remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.
We're going to continue on. Jerry Lawler already out here talking about the Showboats, so he's going to continue on and pivot to discussing Monday Night's Tag Team Title Tournament. He likes titles. He likes the idea of 10 grand as well. Just ask Jamie Ray Kimbrell. He says that he made calls to Austin Idol, Jimmy Valiant, Bill Dundee, but they were all already booked elsewhere, so it left the King a-thinking. None of his usual partners were available, so he started pondering some of his toughest opponents, people he knew would make a great partner. Lawler admits there was one name that came to mind, and the one guy he's never been able to dominate in the ring, and that name is Nick Bockwinkel. Lawler has tried for years to take the AWA title away, unsuccessfully, but he gave it a try, and he called up Nick. King told Bach they don't have to be friends, but they have a chance to make some money and win some gold. To Lawler's surprise, Bockwinkel bought in. He will be the King's partner this Monday night. Wow, what a big announcement. That's about the only thing they got going for him right now, just the idea of Nick Bockwinkel on the same side as Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, man. Anytime Nick Bockwinkel came to town, it was always a big deal, and we've, well documented over the years Lawler's desire to win the AWA World Title, and these guys have just been at odds, as far back as you can remember. So, yeah, that's a very fun and interesting aspect to this tournament. Can they coexist? Can they, win the titles? And if they suddenly become Southern Tag Team Champions together, what does that mean? Are they now a regular tag team? Is Bockwinkel hanging out in Memphis, or is Lawler going to go defend the Southern titles in Minnesota? Just a lot of interesting what ifs come from Bockwinkel coming in to be his partner. So when this was announced, I was like, all right, well, here's something that has my attention. Nothing else so far on the show really had. So
right.
I was hoping we would hear from Bockwinkel. So that turns out good as well.
Yeah. So Lawler gives us this spiel about he's going to be teaming with Nick Bockwinkel, but we actually hear it from the horse's mouth. As you said, we go to a VTR from the AWA World Champion more times than not. Bockwinkel says he finds teaming with Jerry Lawler challenging, but in a good way. They don't have to be friends, but he does have to respect his partner. Nick then admitting that he respects the tenacity and the ability of the King. He says if you want the talent, ability, the cunning of these two men, and you put them together and throw down a nice big prize, it's quite the incentive. Bach says he likes money, he likes pride, he likes prestige. So, for the money and for the uniqueness of it all, Nick will join Jerry Lawler side by side and make tremendous success. When Lawler and Bockwinkel team up, the wrestling world will shake in their boots because that's one hell of a team. So says Nick Bockwinkel. I love the line. Just going to do it for the uniqueness of it all. Like, I've done everything, but there's nothing left to do. So this sounds fun. Let's try this.
Yeah. Like, he's really not even hung up on winning the belts or necessarily even the money. It's just an interesting situation to be in, teaming with his nemesis, Jerry
Right.
Lawler, in
Let's
Jerry
see where
Lawler's
this goes.
hometown. I ain't got anything to do Monday night. Let's go see how this turns out. And I have to assume that he hasn't heard him run down the teams in the tournament yet at this point, or he might have decided he could find something better to do up AWA way there.
Well, maybe he thought it was going to be an easy 10 grand when he heard the names involved in this tournament as well.
That's true.
Lawler responding after the Bockwinkel promo that a lot of wrestlers say a lot of things, but Nick actually backs it up. and they will walk out Monday night the new Southern Tag Team Champions. And it's very possible because then Lance Russell going to run down the card, the Southern Tag Team Tournament, $10,000 to the winner. Of course, the Southern Tag Team title belts, the new shiny belts. Every team put up $1,000 entry fee. Lance Russell then announcing the 10 teams involved, and away we go. The fabulous ones. Well, there you go. The Sheepherders makes sense. Lawler and Bockwinkel, we just learned. Former champions, the PYT. Okay, we're okay so far. Tojo Yamamoto and Johnny Rich. What happened to Joski? Jay Youngblood now teaming with Jerry Oski for this tournament. Ron Sexton and Billy Travis also part of this. Your team, the Batten twins, are back at it, and they have a shot here, maybe. They have $1,000, really? I don't know where that came from.
Exactly. Where did the expiration of time twins come up with $1,000? I mean, how many matches in Central States would they have had to wrestle to come up with that kind of scratch?
Where's the realistic booking here, Tom Renesto? The Batten twins do not have $1,000 between them. Come on. Gino, Della, Serra is going to be part of the tournament, teaming with a fellow by the name of Les Freeman, who I do not have a lot of information on, but we're going to see Les here in a minute. Jerry Bryant, also part of the tournament, teaming with Tommy Gilbert. All right, so there's your 10 teams involved on Monday night. Wow, it really fell off right after the PY. So about 4 credible teams, and then it just kind of falls off the rails.
Yeah, the rest of it feels like a freaking lethal lottery from WCW in the 90s or something. Because, I mean, you think about that, Tommy Gilbert, bless his heart, I mean, you said that maybe Renesto had an old grudge against Tommy, but he's still here. But Tommy hasn't won a match since Tom Renesto got here. Yeah. They made sure to get the mask off of him in that whole debacle. He's just been basically an enhancement guy. And then Jerry Bryant, they just throw him in with whoever. He's not winning any matches. And the Batten twins have just been the whipping post for PYTs for a couple of months there. So, boy, that was one of those times where they should have announced those first 5 teams and then put plus other contenders and left it at that.
And more, right? Exactly.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're going to see a couple of those teams in action right now. Going back to the ring, it's Billy Travis and Ron Sexton with Buddy Wayne taking on the team of Brad and Mark Batten right here on TV. And I noted not only does Buddy Wayne look like Paul Bearer, but this week he's actually wearing a fucking funeral home brown suit, because it's the only time I ever see those brown suits are in the funeral home. And here he is. Oh, yes, Buddy Wayne in the corner of Travis and Sexton. The Battens going to start off landing double drop kicks on both heels to begin, clearing the ring. Looking good. Okay, good start there from the Batten twins. Then they have to go and jump up in the air and touch their fucking toes. I said, what the fuck are they? Antonino Rocca? Kamala? What's going on here?
That looked like something someone told him to do, because the one jumped up and did it, and the other cut his eyes like, oh, shit, I forgot about this. And he jumped up and did it. And it was the most awkward, dumbest looking shit. Please don't do that ever again.
I don't know that they're ever going to have the opportunity to do it again, but I will say this. They came in looking good. They did double drop kicks on both opponents. And I go, oh, okay, this might be a good match. And then they take all of that. They suck all of that right out of me by doing those toe-touching splits in the air. I don't know why they felt that was necessary. And like you said, maybe somebody has a rib. Maybe Jerry Lawler, they passed him on the way. Hey, guys, why don't you go out there? Why don't you do that little thing I saw you do? Try that the other day. Go do that. And then the other one just sees his brother do it, and he goes, I got to do that shit too now? All right, whatever.
It's like, what, we're doing a gay gimmick now? What is this?
Well, their match resumes with the Batten twins in control. Nice crossbody, almost pins Billy Travis at one point. But finally, the heels take control on Mark Batten, at least according to Lance, it's Mark. I have no idea. Nice backbreaker from Billy Joe. Double underhook suplex from Sexton. Then Mark Batten finally able to make the hot tag out to brother Brad, who is a house of fire, landing a flying head scissors on Sexton out of the babyface corner. Brad going to try for the move a second time, but this time in the heel corner, leaping up for the flying head scissors, where Billy Travis is waiting on the apron with a foreign object, and he pops Brad Batten right in the head directly in front of the official. Down goes Brad Batten. Sexton going to jump on top, and that referee is Tom Branch, who makes the count, the 1, 2, 3, and the heel team of Travis and Sexton go over 5 minutes and 9 seconds. So right there we see again Tom Branch in clear view, Billy Travis popping Brad Batten with something in his hand and Branch counting the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and I could accept that as like, all right, well, we're trying to tell this story of Tom Branch is the heel referee and he's going to favor the heels, but like, did they not let the announcers in on it?
Yeah, good call. I had that in my notes too. The Tom Branch story continues, even though the announcers ignore it. I don't know. It seems like they would know the story that they were telling by this point. With Tom Branch, Lance Russell's already recorded some promos with Branch at this point for some of the local cities. So the other markets, I have some of the promos coming. And so I just don't understand how they see this, and they don't really reference Tom Branch being involved in the entire situation. Maybe it wasn't meant to be, like you said. Maybe it was just coincidence. I don't really know what that was, but I did take some notes based on my sadness for what has happened with Billy Travis in such a quick amount of time, from flashy PYT to standing here in black trunks managed by Buddy Wayne Bearer. Meanwhile, Ron Sexton, as I tried to figure, I was watching Ron in this match, and I go, you know what? He is literally the epitome of a generic off-brand dollar store wrestling figure. He's got that generic, I'm in shape look, black tights, black hair, black mustache. I mean, literally, you can go to the dollar store right now and pick a Ron Sexton doll up.
That's a good point. He's one of those people that there is nothing about him that stands out. There's like, he could go rob a bank, and then they ask people, so what do he look like? I don't know. He's just some dude, like, I think he had dark hair. And then the other whoever standing next to him, like, did he have a mustache? I don't know. Did he? I think he did. I can't swear to that. I don't know. I didn't really look directly at him.
Pretty mullet though.
Yeah. He's just very, like you say, just generic, plain, blah. And they dumbed, rather than fancying him up and bringing him up to Travis out there in his robes and shit that he was wearing.
Yeah.
We've dumbed Travis down to him. So now there's two generic guys out there who are unremarkable with their unremarkable manager that beat the Batten twins that probably needed a win there for us to take them seriously in the tournament.
Right.
Have Jerry Calhoun be the referee, have those guys go to cheat, block it, and then they get a roll up or some quick win or something. But instead, we have the heel referee do what a heel referee is supposed to do. But then rather than Lance went, oh, come on, Branch, what the fuck? We just act like it didn't even happen.
Yeah.
I guess that's just how far removed they were. I mean, they were probably just so over it. They're just like, fuck, whatever.
Whatever you guys say, whatever you want to do at this point, Renesto, that's what we're going with. So the heel team goes over, and then they are interviewed by Lance. Buddy Wayne with Travis and Sexton by his side. Wayne denying any wrongdoing in that last match. He says the Batten boy simply lost his balance. He's clumsy, and he fell on his rear, and that's it. Wayne then notes he goes in the ring only twice a match. Man, I feel like I'm talking to my grandmother here. That's it. Twice. That's good old school Southern talk right there. He says, Buddy Wayne says, though, he only goes in the ring twice a match, and that's when he enters the ring with his boys and again after they win their matches. He's strictly there to advise them. And that's when we go back to Monday night once again. More VTR footage, fabulous ones, taken on Travis and Sexton. They announce 19 minutes have gone. I wrote, jeez. Oh, the fabulous ones going over by disqualification after Buddy Wayne interferes. Remember, he just said he doesn't interfere. By blinding Stan Lane with green ink. And it is right there on videotape, proof that he interfered. Buddy Wayne referring to it as trick photography. So, couple takeaways here. The Fabs had to go 19 minutes with Travis and Sexton. Also, did we not have anything else to use besides green ink?
Yeah. God. Can you imagine, like, Vern Gagne had to get a pretty good kick out of hearing about what these guys were down here doing after they loaded up and bailed on him and went back to Memphis. Even though I don't know that Vern Gagne gets amused by much of anything, I'm sure it still had to do his heart good to be like, serves him right, dipshits.
I don't really know what to say. I saw Lane get blind and they didn't really understand what it was at first. And I'm like, does he have something green? Did Kabuki run through the ring? Like, what just happened here? And it was like, green ink is what they've eventually come up with. And I was just like, okay, why not just black? Is that what was that the cheapest ink in the dollar store when you were buying the Ron Sexton figure? I have no idea. But
how many stores did you go to before you found green ink there, buddy?
So we come back from the VTR. We hear from the Fabs, but they are once again not in studio, but rather a VTR sitting on the hood of their what they call expensive toy, a 1985 Lincoln Continental Mark VII. As they announce they are indeed going to be part of the tournament Monday night. You get these cars by being in the main event, they say, not opening the cards. Kern talks the fabulous ones needing patience to make it through the tournament, dealing with the tricks, the managers, everything that comes with it. And after making their promises recently, now Steve Kern going to back up and says, well, no more promises. And while not in the studio, at least both fabulous ones were indeed at least together in the video this week. So they had that much going for them.
That's true. Lane probably wanted to chime in. Yeah, the managers, the losers, the has-beens, the nobodies, the shit asses that we're going to have to wrestle down there Monday night. Steve, it's going to suck.
Well, I hear foreshadowing things to come on Monday night because, well, we'll get to those matches when we get. I didn't have to watch very many of them, but I would have to imagine you could be accurate based on, well, we'll see. We'll get there in a moment, guys. So we're going to talk to more of the teams involved, and we're going to make everybody feel important. At least we're doing that much for the big tournament on Monday night. So Dave Brown going to interview Jay Youngblood and Jerry Oski, and here we go. Of course, another team part of the tournament, Oski mocking himself and Jay. He says, well, we know one move that we won't be trying come Monday night. So Jay Youngblood then joking, I'm sorry, Jerry, I forgot to eat my Wheaties today.
I wish you would have heard Lance from off screen go, I fucking hope not.
Oh, for crying out loud, for fuck's sakes. Oh, man. So the promo is just a slight bit better than the match we saw at the beginning of the show with these two. Not very good, but it's short, sweet, and to the point. And I should point out, even though Jay Youngblood, not very good now, Jerry Oski, far cry from Ricky Steamboat as well.
Oh, that's very true, but Jesus, Jay had more lead in his ass than Playboy Frazier on that move.
French fried taters. So we continue on. So this is kind of fun. We want to try to make all the teams feel important. I get that, and I kind of appreciate that. But they have Dave Brown standing with Youngblood and Oski, and then 2 feet to their left, Lance Russell standing with another team who gets another 10 seconds to talk. It's Gino Della Serra and his partner Les Freeman, who we have never heard of or seen before, and he's out here in street clothes, so he's not even working at this point as far as the TV is concerned. So Les Freeman comes in. Gino Della Serra worked here earlier as part of a Job Guy tag team, and he's going to do the talking here. Les Freeman rocking the Miami Vice special I noted here as far as street clothes goes, but that's all that we really know about this tandem moving into Monday.
I mean, how do you sell this guy as a potential threat in this tag team tournament when he was teaming with David Haskins, which I love David Haskins, good guy, but at this point, he'd never won a match in his life on Memphis other than that one fall he got on Eddie Gilbert in a snowstorm. And that's how we introduce this, as he's tagging up with as one half of a tag team with Haskins. And now he's out here with this dude we've never seen who looks like he's an extra from Miami Vice.
Yes.
So we're supposed to take these guys seriously as fuck damn, these guys could be Southern Tag Team champs come Monday night. We better keep our eye on these dudes.
And another team, I kind of ponder, where did they get the $1,000 from, as well as I'm looking at it.
Oh, God, yeah.
Gino Della Serra, for those unaware, the younger brother of Bob Della Serra, who made the rounds all around the world under the mask as the UFO, and Bob Heffernan as one of the newer Kangaroo tag team with Al Costello managing there in the early 1980s. But here, Gino, who also worked as Rocky Della Serra, he's got Les Freeman, who I don't have a whole lot of information on at this point. So we'll see what happens as we move along if Les sticks around. But right now, the interviews keep on going. Man, they got a lot of interviews this week. Tom Branch out here, referee Tom Branch, who Lance Russell refers to as the young controversial referee. Lance referencing the recent Lawler-Brody match.
Tom Branch, you're seeing him getting used in this angle with Lawler. And in the back of my head, I thought, well, maybe when it comes time for him to talk, he's going to be a damn good talker that's going to be able to get some heat like that.
He better be.
And this completely shot that theory in the head. So I don't know. His calling so far hasn't been wrestling. He's not a good referee. He's not a good promo, but he's the Booker's son, and sometimes that's all it takes, right?
He is a junior, and when the senior is the Booker, that's all you need sometimes. Like you just said, Gene, you hit the nail right on the head with that one. Tom Branch admitting to being a wrestler in the past. I've wrestled, noting that, well, I've never been as good as the Fabulous Ones or Jerry Lawler or even Tojo Yamamoto, but I am a man, and I will call the matches right down the middle, daddy. Sorry, wrong referee. Branch fears no man, he says. He says he's not biased towards those fan favorites like a Jerry Calhoun, and that's why the fans have been questioning his calls. But Tom Branch promising he's going to continue to call it as he sees it. So as you said, not really the epitome of excitement out here, not really garnering any heel heat. And yeah, you can piss the crowd off if you screw Jerry Lawler over a time or two, but you really got to escalate things beyond that, and I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, because, at least, you made a reference to Fonzie there. At least he could get on the mic and get heat. Danny Davis was pretty good at, getting heat. I ain't saying he's a great promo, but
no, he got heat.
Follow up his,
he got that heat.
Yeah, he could at least follow up his behavior with a promo enough to get heat. My only concern there is when he took the shot at Jerry Calhoun, I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, don't set up a tag team match at some point with Lawler and Jerry Calhoun against freaking, Tom Branch and Les Freeman or some shit.
Speedy Talltree. Remember, Renesto has 2 kids, remember, so.
There's a main event for you right there at the Coliseum.
Any city in the country, Jess, absolutely. Well, here's the big one. You talk about a main event for TV. Indeed, Southern champion Jerry Lawler defending his title on the line against one half of the PYT, Koko Ware. And as the action gets going, Ware with a lot of stalling until Lance Russell has enough after all the downtime. Come on, we've waited long enough. For fuck's sakes, let's get going, guys. We just saw like 17 interviews in a row. I think we've had like 2 matches at this point on the entire fucking show. Koko comes out stalling o'plenty. Finally, though, we're going to pop the King in the corner to begin things. Knocks Lawler right on his ass. King caught off guard. Down he goes. And we won't know if Jerry Lawler got his revenge because we get another 3-minute break cut in by the hijacking news. Very short breaks, though. I got to say, like nowadays, that would be the next 3 hours of television. You're just done watching wrestling. But only 3 minutes here. And it looks like we didn't miss a thing. The guys are still walking around stalling when we come back after 3 minutes. And after seeing a syndicated version of this entire match, we didn't miss a single wrestling move, Gene. Would you believe that?
I'll admit, I was so excited at the beginning of the show when they said we're going to have Koko Ware challenging Jerry Lawler for the Southern title. My dumbass was really excited. Like, that's going to be a good match. I can't wait. And then we get a fucking spot show match from West Point, Mississippi on a freaking Thursday night in here. Like, what do they realize they're on the air? Like, what the hell?
So this match, if you want to call it a match, is lots of walking around, lots of stalling. Jerry Lawler finally manages to land a drop kick, which Koko sells like a fucking power bomb, by the way. It's the only high spot in the match. So we get a drop kick as Dave Brown alerts us that 6 minutes and 23 seconds have passed. So Dave Brown clearly getting aggravated with this as he's announcing the exact time, 6 minutes and 23 seconds, alerting everybody that it took 6.5 minutes for them to throw their first wrestling move.
I like to picture in my head that Dave Brown dressed everybody down in the dressing room after the show and went like, am I the only one watching this horse shit? What are we doing?
I'm very disappointed in you guys. Watching? Yeah, absolutely. I'm very disappointed. Wagging his finger, and then Lance is like, I don't know what the fuck's going on out there, but you guys better give me a reason to fucking show up. Because this ain't it, guys. Jerry Lawler with a dropkick 6.5 minutes into the matchup. Then he's going to build Koko across the ring, and Ware going to powder to the floor. But Koko going to return with a rope in his hand, begin choking the King out. Referee Jerry Calhoun, a little suspicious, but he can't prove anything. We're going to take over, hit Lawler with his very own finisher, the middle rope fist drop, but Koko's version here. Going to get 1, 2, the King kicks out. Koko trying for a second flying fist drop, but he's going to miss this time. And then the King drops the strap. It's fire up time, guys. But Koko Ware immediately sending the King into the referee. Down goes Jerry Calhoun. Koko then holding Lawler up, while Norvell Austin into the ring off the middle rope with a steel chair. But Lawler moves and Austin nailing Ware instead. Lawler then clearing Norvell temporarily from the ring as the King covers Koko. 1, 2, 3, the entire duration of the match, 11 minutes and 24 seconds. I think we got maybe 3 wrestling moves in that whole time.
Spot show match all day long. I mean, I don't know when I've been disappointed with a lot of the stuff we've seen in 85, but I hadn't built anything up in my head like I did this match where I thought, man, this is going to be really good. And it was just a bunch of fucking nothing. I was so disappointed.
If I looked on a piece of paper and it said Jerry Lawler versus Koko for the Southern title, 11 and a half minutes on TV, I would think to myself, wow, this is like a gem, right? Like we don't get these every week. And thank God we don't get this every week because, oh my God, it was just recently, if you remember, this is like the Lanny Poffo Jerry Oski match all over again. I think it went about 11 and a half minutes and they did absolutely not. They wrestled around a little more or whatever you want to call that, but it ended with outside interference. So basically this is Tom Renesto repeating his booking of do absolutely nothing for 10 minutes and then we'll send somebody in for a schmoz, or in this case, Koko does the job, but after Norvell's, backfired interference.
Right. So it doesn't really amount to anything. And I don't know, man. If I was in that position that Renesto's in, and I know that everybody's watching the show going, fuck, Savage is gone, Brody's gone, Kareem Muhammad's gone. Man, we need to give them some action today. We need to make Koko a credible contender to Lawler's belt, because we may be having to run an angle with these guys pretty soon if we don't get somebody in here. We better go out here today and make something happen with these guys. But no, we don't. Nothing even close to that.
Well, they do get a little revenge of the King there, just briefly anyway, double teaming Lawler after the matchup, hitting him with the chair, dumping him to the floor. But it is what it is at the end of the day. The PYT are a tag team. Jerry Lawler's singles. And like you said, with the lack of talent right now, you would think, well, we better kind of just in case we need Koko to pull him out of our back pocket here in 3 or 4 weeks, we better start doing something now. And it just wasn't the situation at all. And so here's where things get interesting, because it took me a minute to try to figure out what was happening here, because we saw the Memphis feed sign off live. They said goodbye. Lance and Dave said, we'll see you next week. However, there was an additional match that aired only in the syndicated markets, I had to imagine, because of all the editing they had to do with the hijacking and all the other things they had going on the live feed. And so they basically bring Billy Travis back out for a second time. And then somebody must have got a word to Les Freeman. Hey, buddy, get out of them fucking Miami Vice studs and get on your wrestling gear, because you got a match now to the expiration of time, if you will. And that's what we're going to see Billy Travis battle Les Freeman, I guess, to fill the time on the TV, the 60-minute syndicated TV. And it goes about 4 minutes, and it's 4 minutes of nothing, much like the Lawler-Koko match, only even less exciting. Travis with generic heel offense the entire way. Freeman finally taking a couple shots right at the end, gets a couple of punches in when Ron Sexton attacks for the disqualification. Total match time, 4 minutes and 9 seconds. And then the heel's going to beat down Freeman, but Les going to get the big DQ victory heading into the tournament Monday night.
Oh boy. I would have been far more accepting. Yeah, we got a finish on the Lawler match. But if they would have had like a good, solid, action-packed match through, 10 minutes of that, and then Lawler's got him, he hits him with the fist drop, and then Norvell runs in for the DQ, and the story is, well, Lawler's partner's not here. Nick Bockwinkel won't be here till Monday night. I would have rather seen that than seeing a bunch of nothing, and then we get a Lawler win that didn't mean nothing because they still told that after the fact. So,
right.
Well,
TV has come to an end, and we move into Saturday night, Nashville Fairgrounds. And of course, Nashville always a week behind. So they're doing this week what the other cities were doing earlier in the week. And that is Lawler and Tojo tag matches. Monday night, it was Lawler and Brody. The rest of the week, it was Lawler and Tojo teaming, Tom Branch screwing them against the PYT. And that's what we have here in Nashville tonight. Also, Travis and Sexton versus Youngblood and Oski. Gino Della Serra against Jerry Bryant. David Haskins against, I have in my notes here, Rick Steele. I don't know if that's legit or not. And Les Freeman stepping in the ring with Big Lou Winston, plus what they call 6-man tag team action, which I assume involved a lot of the guys we already named. And I would not be making that drive to Nashville. Not a very appetizing card.
No, there's not one redeeming match on that entire card. Nothing.
It's a scary time right now for Memphis. I really don't know how they're going to turn this around at this point, but we're going to move on to the following day, the Jerry Lawler Show, June the 16th. And literally half the show, 15 minutes of the show, is Jerry Lawler visiting the Nike factory, clearly trying to get some more free shoes. As we come back to the set, we have a guy by the name of Bob Crome, I believe, who is apparently the baseball coach for the past 21 years for the CVHS, whatever that is. And Lawler talks some football, basketball with Bob Crome, apparently a coach and a former player and things like that in the local area. But Bob also just happens to be the TV5 floor director. So that might explain how he got his moment here on the Jerry Lawler Show. We also find out that next Saturday is Zoo Day. So parents, bring your kids out to the zoo, the Memphis Zoo. Would probably be missing some TV5 wrestling action if you do that, though. Might be counterproductive for the King to promote it here, but we get a commercial for Zoo Day with Jerry Lawler. And then we also learned that Lawler's Army, in a big rematch, will be taking on the Millington Moondogs softball competition later today. And I do believe that's the team they beat like 68 to -7.
Wonderful.
And squash. And yeah, it's like the Battens, the Millington Moondogs, featuring Mark and Brad Batten on first and third. But we close out the Lawler Show this week. Very uneventful. No real wrestling stories to be told here this week on the program. Steve Earhart, who had been in the studio for the wrestling program, the general manager of the Showboats, also part of the Lawler Show, which is typically recorded prior to the live Memphis TV Rasslin on Saturdays. So that would make sense. He's already in the studio. Why not get him on both pieces of TV here? And probably the most uneventful and unappetizing piece of Jerry Lawler's show I've seen him with Kareem Muhammad gone. I'm even longing for him even more to come back.
Yeah, I mean, god dang, you can't even make the Jerry Lawler Show entertaining at this point. That's sad.
There's always something out there.
And that floor manager guy, they trotted him out in '93 towards the end of the year and gave him some kind of award for, I guess he was retiring and was leaving the station or something. And he
looked like he should have been retiring in 1985. I can't believe he was there another 8 years. Unbelievable.
Yeah. And it was funny because it was like right after a turn and Jeff Jarrett was all heated. But then they come back out like 2 minutes later after a break. And he's like, oh, yeah, the floor manager. And they, haul it up and everything. I remember as a little kid seeing you around here and and then a few minutes later, let me tell you something, Monday night, Brian Christopher, by God. Famous Memphis,
That is very famous Memphis. Absolutely. Jerry Lawler. Yeah, you ripped my eye out, but oh yeah, by the way, tomorrow we're going to be, come on down to the game with doubleheader, we're charity event for the kids. I'm
going to tuck my eye in and we're going to play softball and I'll take pictures with everybody afterwards. It's not nearly as gruesome as it looks right now, folks. It'll be fine.
It'll be okay, guys. Absolutely. We're going to see what happens now. I hope we're okay. After Monday night, June the 17th, Mid-South Coliseum, Southern Tag Team Tournament, 10 teams involved, 500 per man. That's $1,000 per team. And of course, we've talked about the teams, Lawler and Bockwinkel, the Fabs, the Sheepherders, the PYT, and the rest. Basically, we go into the first round, and it looks like this. Oski and Youngblood over Freeman and Della Serra. Travis and Sexton defeat Tojo and Johnny Rich by forfeit is what I have here in my notes. So I'm thinking Johnny Rich never showed up and Tojo say, I ain't no job to that team. No, sir, boy-san.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because Johnny Rich had not been on a single card. And it's kind of like that week in '93 where they booked Wendell Cooley out of nowhere, and then suddenly he didn't show up, and they replaced him. So that was such an odd thing when Johnny Rich's name popped. Like, what, Johnny Rich in '85? Like, that's odd, but yeah, forfeit.
Kind of reminds me of earlier here in '85. They kept announcing Johnny Wilhoit for the cards, and he was like Glacier. He just kept coming. He just never arrived. That's what it felt like. But we're going to continue on first round action. Going to see Lawler and Bockwinkel successful over the PYT. Now that's kind of a fun way to book that. You do need the talent. So maybe the PYT should have passed the first round, but at least they got their comeuppance right away against really the favorite team to win this thing, I would think. Sheepherders over the Battens and the Fabs defeating Tommy Gilbert and Jerry Bryant. Does anything, you want to cover anything there in the first round?
No, I think we're good.
That's fine with me. So we move into the semifinals, and let's see how they're going to handle this with 5 teams. It's Travis and Sexton, who do have to wrestle this time, scoring a win over Oski and Youngblood. So we can kind of see where that team is and where Youngblood absolutely is. It's hard to believe that Oski was recently the Southern Heavyweight Champion, having defeated the Macho Man. And now he's out here doing jobs to Travis and Sexton.
I bet that match was one of them bangers, as the kids say these days.
Banga, bloody banga, mate. Oh, the Fabs defeat the Sheepherders. Well, there's that match, and it's going to be Jerry Lawler and Nick Bockwinkel deserving the bye, I guess, out of the teams involved. That's who I would have gave it to. So Lawler and Bockwinkel with a bye into what would be the playoff match. And I don't know if they flipped a coin or how it worked, how the bracketing worked, if you will, but it was Travis and Sexton defeating the team of Lawler and Bockwinkel. I haven't found footage yet. I hope that some exists. I hope they at least talk about it next week on TV, how that plays out. But I'm thinking, I don't have DQ next to this, but I hope this is a count out disqualification, but you have to believe at the very least Tom Branch got involved in this one.
Yeah, this had to be Tom Branch, Buddy Wayne, everybody working together. They chopped one of them's head off or something. Like, how in the hell does Travis and Sexton beat Lawler and Bockwinkel? My God, I hope some footage exists somewhere. We've got to see how this played out.
Yeah, I mean, I was dumbfounded just reading it and realizing that Lawler and Bach were eliminated by Travis and Sexton, of all people. So they go to the finals to take on the Fabs. And wasn't that long ago we saw them, go 19 minutes with the Fabs. But here this week, luckily, Stan Lane and Steve Kern emerged victorious, defeating Travis and Sexton to recapture the once now vacant Southern Tag Team titles, once again belong around the waist of the Fabulous Ones. So that bodes the question. Why did you strip them of the belts and give it back to the PYT, only to strip the PYT of the belts to give it back to the Fabs?
Yeah, it's boggles the mind, man. It just boggles the mind.
So we do have new tag team champions, maybe 7 more times by the time we get back to TV on Saturday. You never really know here in the Memphis territory, but for now, it's Lane and Kern, once again, these Southern Tag Champs, and I'm still going to do a little more research on this Lawler and Bockwinkel situation. I'm very curious. I have to believe Tom Branch came into play there as we continue on. June the 18th, Louisville Gardens, Louisville, Kentucky, Les Freeman to a draw with David Haskins, Jerry Oski over Tommy Gilbert, Jay Youngblood finally getting a win here in Memphis, only over the spoiler, which may or may not have been Frank Morrell. Sheepherders defeating Gino, Della, Serra, and there he is. Johnny Rich finally shows up, just a day late and $1 short, maybe $500.
Wow.
Maybe that's why they forfeited. Johnny couldn't come up with his half of the 1,000. Maybe that's what it was.
That's believable. That is so believable.
Steve Kern going to team with Jay Youngblood. Uh-oh, somebody didn't show up. Steve Kern and Youngblood over Sexton and Travis by DQ, and the PYT defeating Jerry Lawler and Tojo Yamamoto.
Ooh. Man, Lawler, Tojo, and Jerry Jarrett against the PYT and Tom Branch. Wow.
Oh, looking ahead, huh?
Yeah, I was just trying to see if it gets any better. I hate to spoil it. I'm sorry.
No, you're totally
surely,
fine.
Surely it's got to. But that's the high water point here, apparently. Jeez.
Yeah. So Wednesday night, Evansville, Indiana. The undercard is not pretty. Haskins versus Tommy Gilbert, Rip Morgan versus Les Freeman, Johnny Boyd taking on Johnny Rich. It's Travis and Sexton versus Oski and Youngblood. The spoiler versus Gino, Della, Serra. And then, as you pointed out, the big 6-man tag, Lawler, Jerry Jarrett, and Tojo against the PYT and Tom Branch. So that undercard is probably the roughest undercard I've seen. Even some of the spot show results we have don't look that weak. And what's even worse is they have to take tag teams and separate them, like Morgan and Boyd, just to stretch out to have enough matches for the show in Evansville.
Yeah. I mean, and sadly, as far as working a match, Haskins and Tommy Gilbert probably had the best match on the card as far as an actual wrestling match to sit and watch. Looking at Rip Morgan against Les Freeman, Boyd and Johnny Rich. All right, it might be okay. Well, Travis and Sexton against Oski and Youngblood was a freaking train wreck. I guess that's Frank Morrell and Della Serra. God only knows.
Well, we're starting to work Tom Branch into certain cities at this point, so we're going to see him moving forward at least for the next couple weeks, I would imagine. But we're going to move on as well. There was another show, June the 19th, not just in Evansville, but also Summer Shade, Kentucky, at the elementary school. I don't know who was left to put in Summer Shade. based on the card I'm looking at here in Evansville. But the Battens must have came out and worked a 60-minute Ironman match against one another there in Summer Shade. Somebody let us know how that played out. So we'll continue on to Thursday in Austin, Indiana, June the 20th. Tojo over Billy Travis by DQ. Les Freeman going to a draw with Johnny Rich. The PYT over Jerry Oski and Gino Della Serra. It's Ron Sexton now subbing for the gone Kareem Muhammad, but even still, Sexton now pinning Jay Youngblood. And in the, I guess you would call it the main event, it is Jerry Oski and Steve Kern double DQ with the Sheepherders. So Stanley decided, we won the titles. I don't need to do anything else this week.
Wow, his one night stand in as a fabulous one, Jerry Oski. I bet it was exciting for him. Austin, Indiana.
That's it. There's your trivia, guys. Jerry Oski, one night only, a fabulous one with Steve Kern battling the Sheeps to a double DQ. And we're going to close things out Friday, doubleheader, first June 21st, Union City, Tennessee. Jerry Lawler on the card. Sheepherders versus the Fabulous Ones. Jay Youngblood and Jerry Oski also there. I was hoping I'd see Koko there in Union City. June 21st, also Friday night, Kennett, Missouri, at the American Legion building. We do not have any matches or results. Clearly going to be the weaker card, whatever that entails here in June of 1985.
Yeah, I mean, that other show, the Summer Shake Kentucky show, must have just been like whatever outlaw guys they could wrangle up in the area, because there was nobody off the roster left at that point. And then Austin, Indiana gets the special edition Fabulous One. I bet you Oski, that's the first guy that's ever gotten blown up doing a Fargo strut.
Whew, it's very possible. We've seen him blow up in the past, and his career will blow up here pretty soon when he heads over to the at least he's got exposure there in the WWF. Probably made a little more money doing jobs for Vince than he did going over here as the champion for a week in Memphis either. So
yeah, but he probably told more people about the fact that he pinned Randy Savage for the Southern title than any of his losses, draws, or rare wins as Jerry Allen.
Yeah, he had a few wins there over, I'm sure, Iron Mike Sharp and the like. A little revenge from earlier here in 85 Memphis. But that's going to wrap it up here this week in regards to what's going on in the world. What is Memphis like after the Macho Man? Well, you guys, are you sorry you asked? Because now you got to find out. I do know we got some new talent coming in here before too long, so hopefully that shakes things up and at the very least makes it a little more interesting, if not entertaining, like Kareem Muhammad. I don't know if anybody can be like Kareem, but that is what it is. But, Gene, before we wrap this program up here this week, you recently pumped out an amazing book in regards to the life and times of hot stuff Eddie Gilbert. And not to be outdone, just a few months later, here we go again. You've got another one. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Yeah, I just finished up working on a book with Wolfie D called A Tale of Two Wolves, and it covers his entire life and wrestling career. And man, Wolfie has led an interesting life, and we cover it all. And of course, the time in Memphis as PG-13, the Nation of Domination in the WWF. The transformation into Slash in both OVW and TNA. Just, I think people will find, like I say, his story is very interesting, even if you're not a huge wrestling fan. But if you are, I think you'll learn a lot of stuff about. I thought I knew a lot about Wolfie and his career, but in sitting down with him and working on this book, I learned a lot about him that I didn't know, and things that I think a lot of people will find interesting. And I hope people check it out. It's like 300 and forget how many pages, like 350 pages or something like that. Once we got going, he was worried. He was so worried when we were starting out, because there's this, I don't know, there's these people online and a lot of the groups and stuff that the minute a wrestling book comes out, they immediately start bitching about how many pages is it? Oh my God, that's only how many pages they did. That guy wrestled for 20 years. So he was so paranoid that it wasn't going to be enough pages. And then once we got going and he got to telling all these stories and everything, it ended up being a lot more than we expected. So not having any issues this time around, as you well know, Ray, there was a lot of issues with the Eddie Gilbert book as far as people who ordered it getting their books from the publisher.
Right.
Me and Wolfie got rid of that publisher about halfway through this process and did this on our own. And people are ordering their books from Amazon and getting them within a couple of days. No issues so far. Everybody's been thrilled with the delivery time and the turnaround time. You can order it straight from Amazon. If you want to get one signed, you can contact Wolfie on Facebook, and he will sign one and send it to you. And I should be getting some soon, and we'll start taking them to some of the EPW shows and some of the conventions and stuff I'm going to be going to. And then we'll see what Wrestling Book project comes along down the line. But for right now, after doing 2 back-to-back, I am taking a break from writing wrestling books for a couple of months if I can.
You talk about, 350 pages, man. I'd be taking a break after that myself. I mean, that's a lot of work, man. And that way, I mean, there's so many stories, and for Wolfie to be as young as he is still, he's still got them all right up in the noggin that he can share those. And he's from that era where guys may have tended to remember things a little bit. Those guys back in the past, they were forget it. It was like set it and forget it. I worked the match. I got on this, we got drunk in the car ride all the way back to so-and-so. And a lot of guys never really recalled a lot of the stories. And it's like, it feels like guys from Wolfie's era, they savored that stuff a little more. And there's a lot more stories out there. And so for me, not growing up in the Memphis territory until 1994, I did not get Memphis TV feed up here. So all I had to go through was the magazines, but they did PG-13 was one of the big ones, right? That was one of the ones they really got behind. And it was like Public Enemy was the darlings of the mid 90s in the magazines, but PG-13 were the predecessors in regards to the big up and coming tag team. So they did a great job of boosting them. Oh man, this looks like, and I knew JC Ice from Dallas TV on ESPN very early as JC Ice Baby. And so Wolfie D, to me, a little taller, a little more athletic, if you will. So I really, he was like my, a lot of people have their favorite partner on a team. He was always my favorite guy on PG-13. So finally, when I was able to start watching the Memphis feed, I was hooked, and I was like, oh, great. And I bought right in. I didn't realize, hey, JC's as small as he was. When they came through the WWF, just for that 2-week shot when Bill Watts started booking in 95, the first week they put them over. And I go, oh, I'm pumped. I'm like, yes, here we go. They're from the USWA. Jerry Lawler's putting them over. And of course, the next week they do the job to the Smoking Guns, who were the tag team champions. So nothing to be embarrassed about. I thought maybe their stay was going to be a little longer at that point, and maybe they did too. I don't know. I'm sure that's in the book somewhere. So I go back, and I just think about everything they did, from Smoky Mountain to the crossover, crossover stuff with Smoky Mountain, but the USWA stuff, the Cyberpunks, Fire and Ice, what was that, 95, 96 time frame. Yeah. So many great memories of being a teenager and watching the USWA, and they were always there on the forefront, even though it seemed like, and you've covered this already, their early push was start and stop for a little bit, and I never really understood that. But then once they got going, man, they were off to the races.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize, starting out, and we were watching them in 93, they were just kind of using them as like a mid-card comedy tag team, and they stick Midget D with them, and, that brings a lot of shenanigans. But, once Randy Hales got a hold of the book, and he had a lot of faith in those guys, and he put them in that angle with Doug Gilbert and Tommy Rich, they come out of that right into an angle with the Rock and Roll Express, and made that trip to Memphis with Smoking Guns. Smoking Guns came to Memphis and worked them there. And then eventually, they hook up and get in the Nation of Domination. And so these guys who were just like two little small guys that most people saw on Memphis TV and like, well, okay, yeah, they can be big stars in Memphis because it's freaking Memphis. These guys went to WWF. They end up in WCW. They go to ECW. Like, they were in all the top 3 promotions in the world at the time. And, in Puerto Rico, they went to Mexico, and you got to imagine just, Wolfie being on the road all those years with Jamie alone, the stories that comes out of that.
Absolutely.
And so
I can't even begin. I was going to say I can only imagine, but I can't begin to imagine.
And that could have been a book, that could have been a book unto itself of just, his adventures with Jamie. And there's plenty of that in there, but he didn't want it to be all that, obviously.
Right.
So a lot of interesting stuff in there. I hope people check it out. Wolfie's a good guy, and he's really excited about it, and is really proud of it. He did the artwork for the cover of the book, and it's out there. You can go to tinyurl.com/wolfiedbook, and that will take you right to the link on Amazon where you can order it, $19.99. And like I said, you can get it straight from Amazon, or if you want one signed, you can hit up Warren Wolf on Facebook, and he will get you taken care of.
And so hopefully everybody goes out there for $20, man. You can't beat that. But you're right. You know, a lot of people complain, oh, the book's not long enough. There are a few guys that had long careers that had, you know, fairly short books. Why is this guy's book 180 pages? But, right. Any wrestler that spends as much time as he did on the road, and like you said, in and out of all those companies, the WWF with the Nation and ECW, even worked the pay-per-view there and back in 97. So, I mean, they did a lot for anybody who doesn't realize what they did in the 1990s and even into the 2000s. Like you said, Wolfie moves over to the inception of the very early goings of TNA. So he spent a lot of time on the road with a lot of different promotions. And I almost forgot about that little WCW run at the end there, 6-man tags with Frog, whoever the hell that was, and things like that. So they had a lot of fun stories to tell. I have no doubt about that. So I'm looking forward to getting into that one myself, guys. And I encourage you to do so as well. And at that point, we are going to wrap it up for this week. Gene, I want to thank you so much for being here again. And hopefully I can give you a better episode of Memphis Rasslin for the next time around.
Well, I'm not going to jinx this by saying, well, it couldn't be any worse. So we'll just cross our fingers and hope for the best on this next one.
Well, I'm gonna jinx us. It can't be any worse because I want to see what worse looks like. Actually, yeah. So, God. If it is, I will never say it again. Though, how about that? Now that's what I'm gonna bring.
The return of Bobby Colt.
Oh no. Oh well, I asked for it. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap things up here this week. Another regional wrestling in the books. When we return, we've got more Georgia 82 with Jamie Ward, more LA with Vandal Drummond. We've got a lot of things on the horizon. I believe next week it's going to be more ICW with Mr. Steve Crawford. So stay tuned for that as well. Until then, Gene, thanks again.
Thank you. And I look forward to doing it again because, again, no matter how bad the show is, we always manage to have fun with it. And that's what counts for all these fine folks that listen to the podcast.
Amen.